By the end of this video, you will learn how to stop missing the easiest shots in pickleball, why those sure-thing balls actually break down under pressure, and how to finish points with confidence instead of frustration. We're going to talk through smashes, roll volleys, drives, and drops in a way that feels like a conversation with a friend who's been there, messed it up before, and finally figured out what actually works. We've all felt it. You work the rally perfectly, move your opponents around, and finally get that juicy, high ball that feels like a gift. The hard work is done. The point is basically over. And then you miss. Nothing stings quite like blowing an easy finish in pickleball, especially when you know you should have made it. When we talk about easy shots, we're really talking about shots where you're expected to be aggressive or at least highly consistent. These aren't forced errors, where your opponent does something incredible. These are unforced errors, the kind that come from poor preparation, rushed decisions, or losing focus at the worst possible moment. The good news is that most of these misses come from a handful of repeatable mistakes, and once you understand them, they're very fixable. A smash, sometimes called an overhead, is any shot you're hitting well above shoulder or head height at the kitchen line. This is the shot people assume should be automatic, yet it's one of the most commonly missed. The first thing to understand is grip. Some players prefer a continental grip, especially if they come from tennis, because it allows natural pronation and shoulder rotation. Others feel more comfortable with an Eastern grip, which can feel simpler and quicker. There's no single right choice here. What matters is that your grip allows you to swing freely and consistently. Where things really fall apart for most players is technique. Beginner smashes often look like a pancake motion, with the elbow stuck out front and the arm doing all the work. Advanced players get their elbow back and use shoulder rotation, almost like throwing a ball. That throwing motion is the mental cue you want. If it feels like a throw, you're probably doing it right. Your stance should match the situation. When the ball is very high or drifting behind you, a closed stance makes backing up and adjusting much easier. When the ball is lower and more in front, an open stance often feels more natural and efficient. The biggest footwork mistake on smashes is not getting under the ball. Ideally, the ball should be directly above your dominant shoulder at contact. When you hit smashes off to the side, accuracy drops and net errors skyrocket. Getting under the ball lets you hit at the highest point, which gives you better angles and more margin. Another huge issue is head position. Players often look down too early, trying to see where the ball's going. When your head drops, your paddle tends to drop with it, which leads straight into the net. Keep your head up through contact. You can track the ball after you hit it. There are two opposite mental mistakes players make on smashes. The first is getting reckless. This means aiming too close to the lines, or swinging at 100% power when 85% would do the job. Smashes don't need to be perfect. Aim for open gaps, target the depth of your opponent's feet, and give yourself margin away from the lines. The second mistake is getting too casual. Players assume the point is over and stop moving their feet. They reach instead of positioning, and suddenly the easy shot isn't so easy anymore. Treat the final shot of the rally with the same focus as the first. The point isn't over until it's actually over. Finally, know when not to smash. If the ball is below head height at contact, it's usually not a smash. That's a roll volley situation, and forcing a smash there is a recipe for errors. A roll volley is your aggressive option when the ball is too low for a smash but still attackable. The defining feature of a roll volley is topspin. You're brushing up on the ball, not hitting straight through it. The height of the ball determines how much power you can use. On higher roll volleys, you can swing harder because you have a natural downward angle. On lower roll volleys, power needs to come down and spin needs to go up. If you try to crush a low roll volley, you'll either dump it in the net or sail it long. Targeting stays the same as smashes. Aim for open gaps and the depth of your opponent's feet. As your opponent moves forward, slowing the ball down and keeping it low is often smarter than trying to blast it past them. When hitting drops, height is your friend. A good drop has arc. Think of it like shooting a basketball. Flat shots rarely fall. Let the ball peak above the kitchen line and drop gently into the back half of the kitchen. You don't need to land it shallow. In fact, aiming a little deeper gives you more margin and still forces your opponent to hit up for drives. Keep them low, but not reckless. Aim about 6 inches to a foot over the net and focus on topspin. Topspin is what keeps the ball in the court and makes it dip at your opponent's feet. Flat drives are much harder to control and much easier to counter. One of the sneakiest mistakes players make is reaching too far into the kitchen to hit roll volleys. Sometimes taking the ball out of the air is great. It applies pressure and steals time, but when you're overextended, the risk skyrockets. If the ball is going to bounce high enough, it's often smarter to let it bounce, take a step back, and hit it from a higher contact point. You might lose a fraction of a second, but you gain control, power, and margin. The key adjustment here is awareness. If you're reaching, leaning, or stretching awkwardly, consider letting it bounce. That single decision can eliminate a ton of unnecessary net errors. Missing easy shots isn't about lack of talent. It's usually about footwork, decision-making, and mindset. When you stay disciplined with positioning, match your power to the height of the ball, and stay mentally locked in until the rally is truly over, your unforced errors drop fast. Clean up these moments, and you'll win more points without hitting a single extra winner. That's real progress. If you want to go deeper into spin and how it affects consistency, make sure to check out the next video. Keep learning, keep improving, and I'll see you there.